All right, everybody, welcome back. Sam's Army episode 2.251. We got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to start out with headlines. We'll talk about US Open Cup controversy that is brewing, along with MLS jerseys, weekly what if, Matt Turner, and blue cards. Premier League, we'll talk a little bit about City and Chelsea, several spankings that were handed out this week, some coaching moves, and then, of course, the first trophy will be handed out this weekend, the Carabao Cup between Liverpool and Chelsea. Around the world with USMNT musings and terrorist Tommy Tuchel being at the peak of his powers at the moment. And then stoppage time with Ivan Toney's best bets and everyone's favorite segment, GOAWs. Now, time to welcome in this week's panel of beauties, starting with Mr. Mitchell Goulet, aka Overtime Mitch. It's your question, sir. As someone who gets paid to know, what's going on online and social media specifically, how would you compare soccer threads versus soccer Twitter?
People use soccer Twitter.
It's that simple.
Yeah, Threads doesn't have like the dedicated user base that Twitter does. If you find like a joke on Twitter, it's likely 7 and 8 layers of internet lore deep, whereas Threads is most likely just like really surface level content because there's not people that are going there for like commentary, news, jokes. It's all just like really, really surface level right now because it just doesn't have the user base. Maybe in a couple years, but Twitter, despite everything Elon's done to destroy it, is still kind of the hub of sports commentary.
Yeah, I'm not on Threads too often, and I'm not even on Twitter as much these days. But yeah, when every time I open up Threads, I just see a bunch of people complaining. It's just complaining. I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of annoying. So
Well, the algorithm feeds you what you're
I
into,
know,
so
right? I guess I'm just sort of telling on myself and my sad state of affairs at the moment. We'll move on then from my depression. Dalton Kemper is back, and as our resident racing expert, car racing that is, car racing expert, give me the sort of the quick and dirty relevance of William, who was it? William Byron
That's
winning
right. That's right.
Daytona. Lucky guess by me. So what's sort of the relevance of that? Is that like expected, unexpected? What are we thinking there?
Well, no one winning the Daytona 500 really expected, just because, like, if you look at the odds of to win that race, it's kind of like most years MLS Cup winners of like everyone's plus 600, 700 or higher, just because everyone's, so equal and so close in that race. But I wouldn't say unexpected. He did win the most races last year, though, so he's hot. He's a young driver, but that's one that, like, for people who don't, maybe even if you don't watch racing, you know of the Daytona 500. So it's his first one. So like to get that at so young is massive for him because there's so many guys who go through their whole careers, don't do it, and they're like, I wish I had that one, just wish I won that race, and they don't do it. So it's always massive for a young, like up and coming star like him to do it. So it was cool. It was cool to see. It was like a historic moment for the team too. So very cool to see. I like William Byron. He's a cool guy. So
There we go. See, we got all sorts of things here. We talk about basketball oftentimes. We talk about baseball, football, hunting has come up every now and again. Now we got car racing. So we're a well-rounded soccer podcast, or at least we try to be.
diversifying. There you go.
Exactly. All right, we'll move on to headlines. This is going to be a very US centric edition of Sam's Army headlines. So we're going to start out with the brewing controversy involving MLS on one side and US soccer on the other. And in the middle is the US Open Cup. So, the latest that, is going around on social media is, I think it was it the Hudson River? I can't remember the site that had this story that kind of started the talk of this, but essentially it sounds like MLS is what MLS is being accused of doing is trying to kill the US Open Cup. And that's been sort of, common knowledge for a while now, after Garber and MLS said, you know what, we just don't want to play in it. We're not going to send our teams. US Soccer said you have to. So now there's obviously a lot going on behind the scenes now in terms of negotiations and how it's going to work out. The latest news from Twitter is that what was it, the chairman or some higher up, the head guy of the US Open Cup, board member, resigned. And so there's sort of a lot of chatter about, well, so is this, MLS is getting him out of the way because he was being a hardliner on MLS teams have to play in the tournament. And, what is US Soccer going to do? Are they going to essentially, what is it with the commission? They're sanctioning. They can take away their D1 status. There's a lot of talk about what could happen here and how important this is. There's a lot of people there's a lot of overlap with the people who, are big on the pro rel and that sort of thing, saying, you know what, this is like the biggest thing in US soccer for, years and years, both going back and looking forward for the future of soccer in the US. And other people are kind of like, you know what, it probably isn't that big of a deal. Nobody even cares about US Open Cup. So Mitch, which side are you on? Is this a big deal?
Yeah, it's a big deal. This is one of the only things that is keeping the United States soccer ecosystem somewhat connected. It keeps the Division One MLS elites connected to the smaller clubs and allows for those like cup sets that we all love. I know those cold Wednesday nights in Cincinnati aren't the most sexy games to go to, but man, that's what makes soccer beautiful, is anybody can win on those nights. And apart from the romance of it, I think it was just stupid for MLS to even consider leaving this competition. It's the oldest sporting competition, continuous sporting competition in the United States. And I'm not saying it deserves to go on forever and ever, but for MLS to have no reason to leave other than we just don't really want to anymore, it feels a little like I'm taking my ball and I'm going home, and none of you can play anymore. It really feels like they're closing off an area of fandom and an area of competition that has provided them with like benefits over the years. I think US Open Cup really bolsters MLS fan bases and the stories of the seasons as well. So I am very firmly on MLS teams should be playing in US Open Cup. I don't see a reason for them not to.
And the sad truth, and it's not even like hidden, is the fact that they basically are trying to trade US Open Cup for Leagues Cup, which, it was fun. I'll be honest. That was fun to watch. There's just a lot more money in that. That's what it comes down to. And shout out to, it was the Hudson River Blue and Michael Batista who came up with this story. We had some sources that basically saying that the tournament is at risk of being canceled and is basically being held hostage by MLS. So, Dalton, what are your thoughts there?
First of all, I agree with pretty much everything Mitch said. Is MLS teams should be playing in this, which the stupidity of MLS is what I kind of find it hilarious, because if they never came out and said a word, but just trotted out basically backups for every US Open Cup game, no one would bat an eye. Everyone would be like, they clearly don't prioritize it. They got a schedule fixture congestion, which who did that, by the way? I don't know.
They've kind of already been doing that for years, right?
Yeah, they've been doing that. If they would have just
get to like the quarterfinals or semis.
Right. And if they would have continued doing that, no one bats an eye. Now, like I think you said Michael wrote, they're holding the US Open Cup hostage. It's a point of, I have no idea what's going to happen, but it's also like, we see what US soccer is made of right here. Because if they mean business and they are in charge of soccer in this country, something will be done about it. But if MLS is in charge of soccer in this country, nothing's going to be done about it, and US soccer is just going to let them walk over them, which is more likely, I think, unfortunately. But it's really unfortunate, but I think that's going to be the most likely outcome, which sucks because I went to the a couple years ago. Forward Madison played Minnesota United in Madison here, and it was awesome. The stadium was packed. People were all around the stadium that night. It was a freezing cold night in like April, and people still showed up, showed out. The place was sold out. Those nights are what make US Open Cup special, and it sucks that MLS thinks they're above that.
Yeah, it. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to this being a high-profile pissing match, where MLS is basically daring U.S. Soccer to do something, and we'll see if they do. For many years, it's felt like U.S. Soccer has allowed to MLS to kind of get away with doing whatever it is they wanted, and that's not always been a bad thing. MLS has helped grow the sport of soccer, inarguably in this country. But at a certain point, they're in it for themselves. Like, they're a business. They're here to make money. And so U.S. Soccer, being the sort of the nonprofit side of this, they have to be about the game, the sport itself in this country. And so I guess we'll see. I think that you're right that the logical, maybe not logical, but like sort of expected outcome is MLS to win this somehow. I'm sure they got more lawyers and better paid lawyers and all that sort of stuff. But I do think that we've reached a tipping point in a certain sense where there is enough people, enough fans who are plugged in and paying attention that if US Soccer just rolls over and plays dead, they will catch enough grief, or there'll be enough blowback that they realize they can't do that. That's my hope anyway. That's my sort of optimistic perspective on it. I guess we'll see.
I don't think there's enough fans that are plugged into the behind the scenes drama of all this. And we like have to realize who has the leverage here. It's MLS, and it's by a mile. US
Leverage
Soccer
and money.
doesn't have a ton of like realistic leverage. The sanctions that they could put against the league are, you could revoke them of their Division One status, which is like unheard of. Imagine if that had happened. Like,
it's huge, though. I mean, it
like,
would be huge.
It would be massive, but I just don't see US Soccer doing that.
Yeah,
to their biggest league.
Yeah, I agree. I'm usually way too optimistic about this sort of thing. And I guess we'll see. But yeah, I think the usual outcome will be US Soccer sort of rolling over and sort of pat my belly. I guess we'll see. We'll see. So keep an eye on that. I'm sure there'll be more to come. We're going to stay in MLS. 2024 New Jerseys were just unveiled. I know that Mitch, you were in Houston for the Dynamo's big reveal.
Yeah,
and I got to be honest, I liked a fair amount of jerseys out there. Some of them I was a little underwhelmed by, but maybe we'll go you, Dalton. What's give me either your favorite or your least favorite or both.
Favorite right off the top is Real Salt Lake, which props to them. It's simple, where it's not like, I love the Minnesota United jersey because it's nuts, right? It's like a galaxy type thing going on. But Real Salt Lake is the simplicity. You see a mountain, Real Salt Lake, the colors are there. I love that one. My least favorite is I don't know whether I love it or hate it, but I'm going to put it in the hate it right now, but I might change my mind. The Columbus Charlie Brown jersey. Like,
I agree.
I want some creativity, and it literally just looks copied and pasted from Charlie Brown. I don't know who designed it, but that's my least favorite right now. I might change that one, but that's my least.
I'm with you. Columbus fan, so I put it in my nah category. I did a tiers with elite, quality, decent, meh, and nah. And I had Columbus, definitively in the nah. And, a couple, actually, two different Columbus fans reached out and said, yeah, maybe it's not the greatest, but like, at least they're going off of the cookie cutter thing that they've really been sort of married to. So you got to give them some points for that. And I guess you kind of do.
Unless the cookie is Charlie Brown.
Yeah, but it's a bad cookie.
Yeah, true.
So
it's a raisin cookie.
I'm with you. In terms of the nah, yeah, that's pretty low on my totem pole. Now, what do you got, Mitch?
I'd like to just quick on the Charlie Brown kit. It's kind of, we're gonna know it as the Charlie Brown kit, as we know the US kit as the Waldo kit, you know? Like it's iconic, and if they do a lot this season, then it could be like, I feel like that's moves a kit up
For
in
sure.
fans' minds.
Oh, for sure.
Like you said, I was at Houston's reveal down in Houston. It was really cool, like great event. That is up there for me. But two that I want to point out is Charlotte FC's kit is just, I think that's gorgeous. The color grade from white and the blues down to a darker blue. Not didn't try to overcomplicate it. Just those colors really pop. And then I also love Portland Timbers kit.
Do you?
That is, yeah, I love it. That is, I realize I might have a bit of a stylistic difference to you, Sam. But if you go big like that, you best not miss. And they did not. The like the teal colors, the ferns and the butterfly on it, the centered crest, which is not easy to do. I don't think Inter Miami did it well. Inter Miami's kit is not one that I like. Um, Portland's Timbers kit is fucking gorgeous. I will be purchasing one of those with my hard-earned US dollar. And then I don't know, Toronto's is uninspired.
Yep.
I don't love LAFC's kit. It reminds me quite a bit of Wolves, and it doesn't feel very LAFC to me. I don't know why. But there's some good kits on here. I would say I like and would wear well over half of these.
Yeah, I think it was a good year, and I
Yeah.
think they're coming off of a good year last year too. I feel
Yep.
like MLS has gotten a lot of shit over the years for their jerseys, and I think rightfully so often. But lately, I think they've been doing a pretty good job. And
Yeah.
so Portland, I had them in my meh category, and I got a lot of blowback on Instagram for that one. I don't know what it is about it that I don't like. Maybe it's a centered crest. I'm not sure what it is. It's something just doesn't work for me with that one. And maybe I'm just being harsh.
All right.
The ones I do like though, Charlotte, I'm 100% with you. Love the
Yeah.
color grade. I think it probably has, it's very sort of organic with, the way their topography works and the color scheme. It seems like a very simple, elegant, yet very good, good jersey. I like Salt Lake. I can't put it in the elite for me just because it looks too much like Barcelona. So I can't put it in the elite, but I really do like the the unique kind of pattern with the mountains up top.
What's in
Seattle's
your
I like.
elite?
I had two at elite, Charlotte and Minnesota. I really do like that Minnesota
Oh, okay.
jersey. I'm a big fan. I know there's probably some people that hate it with the stars in the universe, but like I love it, and it's very unique to Minnesota. It feels like something that's good for them. So I love that for them. The other quality ones I got Philly. I like Phillies. I like the
Phillies
pattern.
is cool with like
Right.
if it looks
Mhm.
like snake skin down the middle, they get a
Yeah.
centered crest too.
Yeah. So in the quality tier, I got Philly, Salt Lake. Couldn't put them elite because it looks too much like Barcelona. And Seattle. If
That's a good
Seattle
one.
ever has a
Yeah.
terrible kit, they got to fire somebody because their colors just work, and it's hard to have a bad Seattle Sounders jersey. Just quick shout out to Chicago Fire. I know that a lot of people are
Those
kind
are
of
cool.
on the fence about it, but if you know Chicago Fire, you know the history and them getting back to sort of the glory days in a certain sense. I think that'll resonate with a lot of fans. So that's probably one that may not quite resonate with non-Chicago Fire fans, but for Chicago Fire fans, I know that's kind of cool that they're bringing back the red jersey. Okay, move on. Next up, we have weekly what if time. So if you go first, Mitch, if Matt Turner gets a blue card in the World Cup, which men's national team field player are you picking for him to step in goal? And I guess maybe there's all sorts of different ways you do this. Like, I mean, you probably could sub out like a sub in a goalkeeper or something like that. But let's just
No, I think we're going to operate under the assumption that
right,
this player has to be on the field at the time of
100%,
the blue card.
100%. We're out of subs. It's
Yep.
the 80th minute.
Yep.
Got to put somebody in goal. We're up 2-1 on Brazil, in MetLife in the final. Who are you going with?
It's Weston McKennie. He is the mindset to be a keeper. I don't think a lot of other guys out in the field have that kind of little left to center screw missing mindset that you need to be good between the sticks. I think McKennie would be my first choice. And then I can see, not that I would ever willingly take out one of our center backs to put them in net, but I can see like Chris Richards doing a good job in there. I'd have to really go into the athletic background of all these dudes. Who played baseball? Who played basketball?
Yeah.
American football.
Yeah.
You know, let's really let's get. I mean, we're Americans. We really should be the best with our hands. Now that I'm kind of thinking about it, we should have the greatest goalkeepers in the world with how many sports we play with our hands. And we have Matt Turner, who is the greatest goalkeeper in the world, as we all know, but I feel like we should just have more. We should have a legacy of phenomenal goalkeepers. And our outfield players should be able to play in between the pipes too. So, Weston, get those gloves ready.
I think that's a good call. That is a very good call. Dalton, you got anybody else, or would you go McKennie as well?
Yeah, my mind went to Anthony Robinson for, I think of athletic. I also think of calm under pressure, which a lot of goalies have to be. So I went with Anthony Robinson for a lot of the same reasons, but I don't know why my mind went to him instead of Weston McKennie. Also, I feel like if Turner, maybe I overthought this, but if Turner's going out with a blue card, for some reason in my mind, I'm like, we need a goal. And I want Weston on the field, in the field, to still be trying to get a goal. I'm going to take a defender off instead of a midfielder.
Okay. Okay. I think the context matters in this hypothetical. So I'm willing to accept both of those answers. I would have been leaning towards McKennie. I think that might have been my call as well. I do think we need to do a little research on who's got the basketball sort of background. Chris Richards, I think might be a good call.
Yeah,
but you're right. It'd be tough to take away a center back.
Pulisic has a little jump shot to him, but I wouldn't take him off the field to put him in that.
I mean, listen, Mike McGee has proven that you know you don't got to be 6'7". You can be a regular human being sized person and make it work. But you're
what about
right.
Gio?
Maybe he's a bigger boy too. He's what, 6 foot?
I know he can shoot too. Basketball. I know he has a good looking shot too. I don't think I'd want him off the field either, though.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Dest would drop a sick highlight tape if he came in and made like 2 saves.
I would put him in there just for the Instagram. Oh, that'd be so sick.
Him with the gloves on for months.
It'd be him megging someone, followed up by like a half-ass diving save that he didn't need to dive for. Oh, I can see it now.
Yeah, falling on the ball.
Oh, yeah. You nailed that one. You did. That was absolutely how that would work out. Shout out to our guy Des, by the way. Best highlight reels in the game. All right, Premier League time. Most interesting result of the weekend is the question here. And there were some interesting results. There was the City Chelsea game. Chelsea, took an early lead at City and held it for, a lot longer, I think, than most people thought they were going to. And then Chelsea got the one, or City got the one to draw level. There was the Manchester United Luton Town game, which was a hell of a lot of fun for 14 minutes. They're just back and forth, back and forth. Manchester United somehow didn't score, 5 in the second half, which I will never get over as somebody who hypothetically may have had over 3.5. There was the Brighton game where Sheffield United just rolled over and died after, kind of holding Brighton for a while. One of the worst red cards you'll ever see. Mason Holgate, what in the world are you thinking, my friend? What else? Burnley, Liverpool and Arsenal both put some hurtings on Brentford and Burnley on the road, respectively. Tottenham lost at home to Wolves. Not great. Newcastle was drawn at home with Bournemouth. So there's most of the results. But Mitch, what do you think? What result stands out most?
Most interesting is Chelsea City. That one, poof. City have made a habit of going down 1-0 early in the game. And they always just come back and win 3-1 anyway. So I kind of figured that was how this game was going. But Chelsea hung with them, and they didn't just hang with them, they played well. They didn't look like they were on the back foot the entire time. It looked like a purposeful, 11 guys behind the ball and we're all going to defend as a team, but it never really looked like City were far and away the better team. Haaland missed one and a half, you could call it two pretty sizable chances. But when you're a finisher of his ability, you're granted those every now and then. They just seemed to come at a pretty inopportune time. I was really impressed how Chelsea got up for this game. And if they go and win a trophy on Sunday, I think that could really turn this season around and see them flirting with the top half of the table. I know that's a standard that they should have, but like compared to the beginning of their season, this is a nice little run of form that they found.
You said a lot of nice things, and then you wrapped it in the biggest backhanded compliment.
Give them a little backhanded compliment. Put them back in their place.
The thing that stood out to me from that game, City had 31 shots. They took 31 shots. Only 5 of them were on target, which is an incomprehensibly low percentage, especially for a team like City with a guy like Haaland. But yeah, you're right. It did feel like a performance from Chelsea that maybe the best they've had in quite some time, and comes at a good time for them. Obviously, it's been a rough stretch here, as you pointed out. So yeah, fair result on that one. Dalton, any thoughts on that one, or what would be your choice?
Yeah, first on City Chelsea. First of all, how is it every single time, whether City are down a goal or tied, the ball drops to Rodri in the middle of the box? Every single time, it does not fail. It just drops to his feet. And props to him, he's clinical in those situations. But you just know, come late in games, Rodri's going to be in the middle. The ball's going to drop to him, and he's just going to rocket it into a corner. And it sucks as a fan of other teams. It's got to be a pretty cool feeling as a City fan, but I hate it. And then, I mean, Chelsea, I've been fooled too many times and called too many of their games turning points in their seasons. So I'm not going to call it that. It was a good performance. They could have scored more themselves. I know we said Haaland missed some chances, but like Jackson has had some chances. Sterling had another chance, I believe, in the second half that he could have put City down another goal. So good performance from Chelsea. And it kind of ties in with the game I'm going to go with because Mitch took that one. Liverpool-Brentford, for different reasons than just the game. The injuries are piling up big time for Liverpool. Curtis Jones goes out in the first half. Diogo Jota gets stretchered off. Darwin Nunez comes off at halftime. Not ideal for a team already dealing with injuries to Alisson, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Szoboszlai. Finally, Mo is back. Thank God, he looked incredible. But the injuries are piling up, and that is a very scary thing. First of all, going into the final, Carabao Cup final on Sunday against Chelsea, when they just did what they did and did not have a massive chunk of your regular starting 11, but also being in a title race, it's any dropped points are going to suck. And if your level drops a little bit, we know how you get punished in the Premier League. And that's why Liverpool-Brentford, for me, not even because of the game, but just because of those storylines surrounding the game, have massive implications for the next weeks and months.
A hugely painful win, but also, an impressive win. But yeah, you guys are the walking wounded, unfortunately. And it comes at such, obviously, there's never a good time to be injured, but it just feels like you're getting Mo Salah back. And if you were healthy while City's playing the way they're playing, I mean, I've said this for weeks. It's like I'm on the verge of like saying this might be Liverpool's year to get back and win the title again. But there's just so many things that keep going against you. And I don't know. And I'm not willing to say Arsenal. I'm not even going to put them in there. I know Mitch is like,
we're not even going to acknowledge them. All right, fine.
No, I'd rather not acknowledge them because
we'll
like City's not playing well.
All the conversation we want about City and Liverpool and about how you guys got boo-boos and City. Oh, I don't know. City don't drop points. Yeah, they fucking do. Yeah, they do. So we'll just fly under the
Can
radar
I?
until the end of the
I
season.
know. That's what I'm scared of, to be honest with
I
you.
just want to remind you what you just said.
Mhm.
I forgot to clip it, but I remember last year as the producer of this podcast, before City went on that massive winning run at the end of the year, Tommy said City will not go to the end of the year without dropping a point. I think they did. And so you saying right there, City don't drop points. Yes, they do. I hope
Uh,
that's not the death knell for both of us.
he wasn't as
That
definitive as Tommy.
no, I was more so speaking as a whole. I also said earlier this year that we marvel at City's defense, and at one point in the season they had the same amount of goals conceded as United. So I I don't think they are as inevitable as maybe they were last year. I'm not saying that they're not good though.
Yeah.
They can play ball.
I do feel you and I have had this conversation, Mitch, several times. Like
Mhm.
they feel inevitable for historical reasons, but they
Right.
also don't feel like that team this year, even though they have all the same guys, and it seemed like they could put it together in the same way. They just don't feel like they are right now, which scares me because Arsenal is sitting there, and we're not really talking about them, and yet they're second in the table at the moment. Oh God, that would be a nightmare. Absolute nightmare. On the other side of North London, yeah. So I don't think there's actually that much to talk about in this Spurs Wolves game. Like Wolves,
Why would you?
I mean, let's just move on without even mentioning it. Maybe I mean it's basically like first of all, Wolves is a good team and they've been playing well. We've been
Yep.
talking about this for weeks in a row. The Spurs, when we don't have the players to play AngeBall, and AngeBall and Ange is still going to play AngeBall, it's a problem. It's always going to be a problem for us. And so we didn't have Udogi and Poro, our typical wing backs. We were trying to make do with Emerson Royal and Ben Davies, and Emerson Royal was terrible. I mean, he was awful. Davies, I know what Davies brings to the table. It's not going to be what I think we need to be like a real sort of contending team, but he's solid and he gets the job done, but it's not at the level that we need. And that was the difference in the game. We just didn't have wingbacks that do what we need for AngeBall to work. And Wolves took their chances, which they have a habit of doing that. So I think that Gary O'Neill, the coach for Wolves, probably deserves a lot of credit. Like he has this team playing at a level that I don't think a lot of people were expecting, and they do it consistently. So shout out to them. I think they actually deserve credit. On the Spurs side, it's just when we try and play AngeBall without AngeBall players, it doesn't go well. And I get why Ange wants to stick with the philosophy, and I think that it will pay off long term. I'm willing to bet anyway. I'm willing to buy in. But you're going to have these performances, and specifically, you're going to have these losses, which stinks. But you know what? Whatever. Gotta swallow them. Now we're gonna skip the power rankings. We're not gonna do power rankings this week, but we will do weekend preview. And in the weekend preview, maybe we'll talk about some of the other results and some of the other stuff going on, because there's some coaching changes here. Roy Hodgson has seemingly sort of been on his way out for months at this point. He's officially gone. David Moyes seems like he is very much on the hot seat at this point. It's not like him to take some shots at his critics, which he did this week, which normally is sort of a sign he's feeling the pressure. But I'm sure maybe we'll work those into the weekend preview. So Dalton, we'll go you first. This weekend there's a couple midweek games that we can touch on. Liverpool, Luton Town, I'm sure you'll have your eye on. But the one game that one of the two games that would have stood out from the weekend is Chelsea Tottenham, which was scheduled for, I believe, Friday. That's actually been postponed because of the Carabao Cup final, which we mentioned Chelsea and Liverpool are going to play in. So if we take away that Carabao Cup final, which we'll talk about quickly at the end, what games from this weekend or what game will you be sort of keyed in on?
For me, it is going to be, gosh, There's some good ones this weekend. I'll leave Arsenal Newcastle for Mitch because I know how the last game went between those two. West Ham Brentford, you mentioned it. David Moyes. I did want to talk about him. He brought a trophy to West Ham, which is incredible. They had an incredible run last year, but you can't say that team shouldn't be playing better. They go in against teams in the bottom half trying to sit back and play on the counter when they have players like Kudus, Jared Bowen, Paketa when healthy, all these incredible players, Edson Alvarez, that you should be a team against bottom half competition that dominates possession, creates a lot of chances, and you go into Nottingham Forest, who are in the biggest slide, arguably one of the worst teams in the league at the moment. Last weekend, you not only lose, but lose 2-0, get shown up basically. Like Nottingham Forest just take it to you. It's not a good look for Moyes, and he's going to rely on. I get it. Like I brought this club a trophy for the first time in ages, but if he loses to Brentford, another team not playing their best right now on Monday, it could be it. It could be it for Moyes. I know he's got a long leash with West Ham right now, but how far can you let this thing go before you go, okay, he's taken us as far as we can. We've got to move on. So I'm looking at Wolves and Brentford.
That's fair. I mean, he deserves a long leash. I know that it's not going well at the moment. I think it's at least 5 in a row that they've haven't won, and including 3 losses straight here.
I
But
don't know if they've won this year in 2024. No, last game they won was against Arsenal
okay,
in
so that's
December.
tough. That's tough, obviously. But at the same time, even given that run, West Ham is still in ninth, right? They're not in 19th. They're in ninth place right now. Um, what, 1 point off of Newcastle and 1 point ahead of Chelsea. I mean, as a West Ham fan, yes, obviously, when you go a couple months without a win, that's tough, and then you're going to get pissed off and all that. But like in the context of Moyes having just won a trophy, having you in ninth place, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know
It's
what.
time. It's time. If I'm a West Ham fan, I'm on the board of Moyes out. I've
Okay, you're a Moyes out fan.
seen it. I've seen enough at this point to know who he is and how far he can take you.
All right. All right, which is I think he's taken them pretty far. He's won a trophy,
It's
which
pretty good. Yeah.
as a
Thank
Tottenham
you for your
fan,
service, David.
I
But
don't even know what that
yeah.
means. Okay, Mitch, what game are you looking at?
For reasons mentioned before, I have my eyes on a certain Arsenal Newcastle matchup. We need to get our lick back. I'm confident in how we look right now. Granted, it was Burnley, but we just looked phenomenal this weekend. Really sharp, playing the way we want to. Got players off the bench involved and got everybody some run in. I'd like to see us just carry that momentum over to a Newcastle side that has not been playing well as they were when they beat us. Um, yeah, I just, I hope we stay healthy. I hope we go in there, we get a result, and we take care of business. One thing that I'm also interested in is Brighton Everton. Everton, once they got that points deduction and they asked the landlord to raise the rent, they started playing real well, and then they fell off pretty sharp. And they have to find some form to keep themselves out of that relegation zone. I mean, you got to be bad to be in the conversation with like Burnley and Sheffield right now. But unfortunately, Everton have not done themselves any favors since the turn of the new year. And if there's a team that they can do it against to get the momentum up, it's a bipolar Brighton team. You don't really know which Brighton you're going to get week in and week out. And I think if Everton take the game to them, play physically, then they can go and get a result against Brighton. I'm interested in that one for the table implications, and I'm also interested in that one for the betting implications. I like the over in that one.
All right. Yeah, and Everton are coming off of, I think they just finagled a draw with sort of a later goal against
With
Palace
Palace. Yeah.
this today, in fact. So that's not a great result for Everton.
You got to factor in new manager bump from Palace though.
True.
With Hodgson going out and you get an interim manager today, that it still counts.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I think they were the better team in that game as well. So we'll keep that in mind. You know what? The game that so Tottenham's not playing with our game against Chelsea being postponed. The game I'm like sort of really interested in is Manchester United. I
Mm.
I just don't know what this team is or what they're all about. Like it's like they they came out just absolutely on fire against Luton Town. Like for the first 10 minutes, they looked like, treble winning or quadruple winning, Manchester United sides of decades ago. Obviously just momentarily, but like they had Garnacho going forward. They had Rashford doing things. They had Rasmus Højlund scoring multiple goals in 10 minutes. I mean, like they just looked like dangerous. And then it kind of like, I don't know, it petered out and Luton Town kind of had the momentum and they scored a goal. And then I just don't really understand this United team. I don't know what their ceiling is. I don't really know what their floor is. Like we've talked about sort of the philosophy. What are they? Like I was watching, there was some clips that were kind of funny about Rashford and like the fact he was sort of, walking around the pitch. And it was just like,
Oh yeah.
what are you doing out there,
Looked like
buddy?
me in rec league.
Yeah, it's just like it was so strange to sort of see that from a guy that like so much is expected of him, and also he seems like for years anyway, he like just seemed like he was a good team player and sort of really keyed in and all that. It just like to see him, have the issue with being in Belfast partying up late and then sort of this kind of performance and however many months now where he just hasn't looked like the dangerous player we could have sort of expect from him. I just don't really. It's like he's a microcosm of the club itself. I don't really know what he is, where his head's at. I don't know where United's head's at, and yet they're not in a bad spot, right? They're in sixth place right now on 44 points, which is only 3 points off Tottenham in fifth, which fifth place could be a Champions League spot. We'll talk about that at some other week, given the quotient and all these complicated mathematics. But Manchester United is not in a terrible spot right now, and yet I just don't know what they are. So I'll be interested to see if they, coming off of a win against Luton, whether they can keep that momentum going, and not just Luton. I think they've won like 4 in a row at this point. Like so, it's like, and yet, do they feel like a team that is like a capable of a 5-game win streak? Not really. That doesn't feel like what I think of when I see this United team. So we'll see. I'll be interested to see if they can keep that going. And there were, thinking back to the game, Luke Shaw. I don't actually know if that was an injury that he got pulled off for in the first half. It might have been an injury, but he was also getting absolutely destroyed by Luton Town's winger. Casemiro absolutely deserved a red card in that game. So United kind of got fortunate to get where they are. At the same time, they missed like 2 open sitters. As a guy who had the hypothetically might have had the 3.5 over 3.5. I'm never going to forget or forgive that finishing from Bruno and Garnacho. Both of them
But
had,
you would have hit that if Sambi Lakonga didn't come through with a heroic save.
yes,
That shot block. Oh,
yes. That was a rough one. I being 3 goals, after 14 minutes, and Luton had just scored, so it's like
yeah, you
now,
can turn that one off. That's
oh
fine.
man, this is money in the bank right there. That was a real painful loss. I'll be honest. Not that I'm salty about it at all. But there you go. There's our weekend preview. Let's quickly Carabao Cup final. We've already touched on it. Dalton, what do you think? It sounds like you're kind of nervous, to be honest, given all the injuries, given what Chelsea's been, showing us lately. It sounds like you're kind of nervous, yeah?
Yeah, a little nervous for injuries. Not even so much how Chelsea looked against City, but because whenever Liverpool played Chelsea last in January, we dismantled them, and it was embarrassing for them, which I'm always weary of. Next time you play a team you embarrass, there's a different edge to that team of that can't happen again. I mean, it happened with the 7-0 against United. They come into Anfield this year, they get their 0-0, and they're happy with it and move on. Chelsea can't get a 0-0 here. Obviously, someone's got to win. They could get a 0-0, which I might bet because it seems to happen with Liverpool and Chelsea all the time. But I'm nervous. Like I think Liverpool will win because I think we are in a even with the injuries in a good spot of form where Van Dijk's still playing, Salah will be playing, no Darwin Hurts, Connor Bradley looks incredible. He will be playing. So like there's still some key pieces there. I would be lying though if I said I wasn't nervous. So it's gonna be interesting. I'm hoping for a win, obviously, but I'm more nervous for this game going into it than I was against Chelsea in January.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the time right now that you want to be facing Chelsea.
No.
It seems like they're moving in the right direction. Okay, we'll move on to Round the World, where we'll give out some shout outs. Essentially, Christian Pulisic, by the way, another banger. This guy is first season with AC Milan, and I saw a lot of tweets over the last couple of days. Not surprising, but like basically comparing him and Leao, who is an incredible player and has been there in the system for however many years at this point, and maybe moving on after this season. And the comps between Leao and Pulisic are, I mean, Pulisic is right there with Leao, if not better. So it's just he's having an incredible season. And it's sort of, we'll get to this actually ties in with the terrorist Tommy Tuchel in a little bit here, who we'll get to. But just a quick shout out to Pulisic, who is just absolutely, he's probably playing his best soccer ever, which is saying something.
Did I mention the Guardian's top 100 footballers list? It came like around New Year's, so it might have been a while ago. But on this pod, did I talk about the Guardian's top 100 footballers list and how?
I don't remember you doing so.
So there were no Americans on it, 0, which they talked about, or they mentioned the top 100 footballers in the world, and this includes, I think it was like 11 goalkeepers as well. So you have to put a little bit of an act. No, they're not real footballers, we know. But 100 footballers in the world better than Christian Pulisic, I don't think that's true. I'm not saying he's top 20. I'm not saying he's even top 50, but I do not think there are 100 football players better than Christian Pulisic in the world. And it was only taking into account their calendar 2023 year. But even then, he had won a Serie A Player of the Month with Milan, and he was still finding his form there. But he's now proven to be one of the best attackers in Serie A. And God, he just looks sharp. He looks good. He had a little bit of like a statistic slump over these past, I don't know, call it 2-3 weeks. But that shot with his weak foot, oof, I love the fact that he's American. I rate him so highly, even against every winger in the world. The fact that he's American, I think, is a bit of a tax on him in the eyes of foreign supporters. But man, that kid is good. We're lucky to have him.
Very much so, and very, yes, lucky and happy to have him. And all the haters, all the because Chelsea in the Premier League, there's so much sort of hatred and sort of layers to people who hate Chelsea will then hate Pulisic because he was there and all that stuff. It's so good that he's out of there and just sort of it's a confidence thing, it's a happiness thing, and he's flying, and it's great to see. So keep an eye on that. The thing I wanted to talk about on U.S. men's national team front is the striker depth chart at the moment. So we've got a lot of guys that are in the mix, and if you really think about it, it's actually more than sort of immediately springs to mind, right? Because obviously Balogun and Pepe are the first two that everybody will sort of say, but Josh Sargent for Norwich City at the moment is just killing it. I think he had 2 goals this weekend. Like if you look over his stats this season, particularly the last few weeks or a couple months, I mean, he's just on fire. And he's put himself right there, at least in the conversation of, is he going to make sort of the roster for a Copa team? But we still got Brandon Vasquez, who's scoring for Rayados in Liga MX. Jesus Ferreira will always be at least in the conversation at the moment. Daryl DK is unfortunately not, now that he's been injured yet again.
Tough couple of injuries for him at the beginning of his career when he was starting to like really find his footing. Sucks for him. He's a great guy, great striker as well when he's healthy too, but we wish him well.
Yeah, I gave him the goal last week for his classy response to getting injured. But so, what would you say is the Dalton? You can take this first. So put him in order.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the I don't know, 5, let's say. I mean, I didn't even mention some other guys that are out there, Haji Wright and all this. Give me your top 3 or 4.
3 or 4
in order.
So 3, I can pretty confidently say my order for the top 3 are Balogun, Sargent, Pepe.
Okay.
4th one is so oof. I'd probably go Brandon Vasquez. That would probably be my 4th pick. I like Brandon Vasquez a lot. The way he started out very well in Liga MX, like you said. So I would probably go him in my 4th slot. I like a striker like that's just strong and physically bigger than you and will get to that ball before you. So I like that profile a lot. But I do think Sargent's overtaken Pepe in my depth chart, at least. Just Pepe's hurt by the lack of minutes right now. I think if Pepe was getting the minutes and starting at PSV, I think we're having a different discussion, but you can't deny what Sargent's doing with Norwich. Like you can't ignore it. He's putting in goals at a clip he never has before. So if he continues to round into form like we're seeing, like he has to be on a roster in my eyes.
Okay. So that was Balogun, Sargent, Pepe, and Vasquez. Mitch,
Yep.
what do you think?
Definitely got to give Josh Sargent his flowers. 6 goals in his last 6 games. He was going to be my GOAW this week. Now I got to come up with a new one. I am going to disagree. I don't think he's overtaken Pepe in my eyes. Because Pepe, despite not starting, actually he did start this past week for PSV, but despite not starting, I still think he's scoring at PSV with the limited minutes that he's had. He's scored in like domestic competitions for them, and he looks really comfortable out there. And I still like what he brings in terms of like aerial threat, and I think he's just a better finisher than even Balogun. I think just pure finishing and like striker's sense in the box. I think Pepe is the best at that we have in our depth chart. If I got to give an order though, for me it's going to be Balogun, Pepe, Sargent at the 3, firmly at the 3. Nobody close to him, and then I like Jordan Pefok. I don't think he's been consistent enough. I do like Daryl DK when healthy. I'll put Pefok at 4.
Okay. So ahead of Haji Wright, ahead of what else do we have up there? Vasquez.
Yes. Yeah, I do like Vasquez. I don't think I have done my due diligence and watched enough of him. All I've seen from him is when he plays at the international level. I could do for a good, half hour dive on Brandon Vasquez ball. That's my homework this week.
On YouTube. Yeah, and the goals that he scored for Monterrey have actually, it's been like some of the header that he sort of curved and looped.
I did see that. That was beauty.
Incredible goal. And then some other ones that he's just
that's not a high scoring league either.
Liga MX is high scoring, but Monterrey typically not necessarily one of the high scoring teams. So yeah, I think I would put Vasquez as my 4th, but I can't. I would have Sargent at 3 at the moment. I can't put him ahead of Pepe just because I think the difference in class between a PSV and they're playing in Champions League and all that. I know that Norwich in the Championship is right up there. It's one of the top leagues, obviously. I don't mean to demean it, but I just think that I don't know. I think Pepe's still in my eyes just a little bit ahead of Sargent. I'm trying to like, fight against the recency bias here too. And then Balogun, I'll still go with Balogun. I do think that, Balogun and Pepe, unfortunately, neither one of them have been absolutely killing it lately. So, it's the conversation will evolve over the next couple months. And then, it's going to be an interesting decision that Berhalter makes, especially if he wants to have somebody with the profile that you were talking about, Dalton, somebody like a Haji Wright or Brandon Vasquez to kind of come in and, throw their weight around. Although Sargent's a big boy. I believe I'd have to check his
bigger than you think.
Yeah, I'd have to check his height and weight, but I think he's actually kind of a big boy. I wouldn't, for some reason, I don't think of him as like a bruiser, but maybe he is. I don't know. Okay. Tuchel. Quickly, we got to talk about Tuchel and Bayern. Like this, mostly because it's, we just sort of want to make fun of the terrorist because, he's on our shit list, for my shit list. I shouldn't speak for everybody. Like, I'm going to hate on Tuchel, until the end of time. But like, he goes from Chelsea, where granted, he did win a Champions League. So let's keeping in mind. Outside of that, like he lost the team there. He killed Pulisic's vibes. And obviously he got shown the door. At Bayern, he's been nothing but terrible. And like the players clearly hate him. And it's just like the guy is, I don't know. It's like, I don't know what to say about him, but it seems like he needs to go have a rethink about his whole philosophy and the way he's going about things. Because to lose the team and a team as talented as, Bayern so quickly, like things are going downhill. And the fact that they lost, I think they lost 3 games in a row now, 2 domestically, like obviously that's not a thing Bayern does.
I don't know. Like he's gonna be fired because they're not gonna win Bundesliga. So he's on limited time. Where does he go next? Like, is there a big club out there that's gonna be like, yeah, I'll take Thomas Tuchel after his last 2 clubs? Like he's shown that his tactics aren't working. He can't manage a locker room. He plays players out of position. He gets tactically dominated. In that game against Leverkusen a couple weeks ago, Xabi Alonso was playing chess, and I don't think Tuchel was even playing checkers. I don't know what Tuchel was playing, but it wasn't to the level of Xabi Alonso. So I don't know. If I'm Tuchel, like you said, Sam, I'm taking a long walk. First of all, of crossing Pulisic again. I'll never do that again. Then,
hopefully he learned his lesson there.
hopefully. I don't know. It's really interesting, and I've been looking at what Bayern fans have been saying these past couple weeks, and almost all of them are like, "How did we fire Nagelsmann for this?"
Which is funny because they were all hating on Nagelsmann.
Yeah, grass isn't always greener
for a while there. Tommy, he wasn't playing chess. He wasn't playing checkers. He was like playing tiddlywinks. So we got tiddlywinks. Tommy did the terrorist Tuchel. Just absolutely going down in flames. You really hate to see that.
We need to put a little bit of blame on Harry Kane, though. Do you see the opportunity that he missed? Musiala played just the sexiest Trivela pass, perfectly weighted into his path, and I think he might have had too much time. That he looked up, he saw himself one-on-one with the keeper, and then promptly put it into Rosette. It was for one of the best finishers in the world. It was one of the worst finishes I've ever seen. I genuinely think all 3 of us on this pod right now could have scored it. And that was the difference. 1 goal was the difference.
Yep.
I don't know what it is with your boy Harold, but is he gonna not win a trophy? Because
it'd be amazing.
After trophy hunting,
like Harry Kane and Eric Dyer going over there and them winning.
Yep. Yeah, they signed him a fresh.
You rooting for them to go trophyless, Sam?
What's that?
Are you rooting for them to go trophyless?
No, I'm not. I'm rooting for Tuchel to get fired and then them to win something. I want Harry Kane to win trophies. I'm actually very much on Team Harold, and he absolutely will win trophies there. But it would be insanely hilarious.
I'd like to go on record as saying I think Leverkusen are going to stay on top and win the Bundesliga, though.
Sound like Dalton was with you there.
Oh yeah,
God,
yeah,
Xabi
absolutely.
Alonso. I put this up on overtime a little while ago. If Xabi Alonso stays at Leverkusen for 10 years, can he win a Champions League?
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, this
I
feels like
think he would.
recency bias. Do
Oh,
you
it
think?
absolutely is. But like I'm fueling
I'm
conversation
buying
with
in.
recency bias. Yeah.
I mean,
Take my
listen,
money.
their recruitment has been great as well. Now, whether
Yeah.
they'd be able to keep those players, like I don't actually know what Leverkusen's finances are like. It just seems like any time a Dortmund or Leverkusen or any team other than Bayern starts to do well, they end up just getting raided. Not just by Bayern, to be fair, not just by Bayern, but Bayern is among the buyers. So I don't know if they'd be able to keep it going. But man, Leverkusen is fun to watch right now, and Bayern are in real trouble because right now, in the middle of February, this is when typically City and Bayern just start to assert
All the
themselves,
way. Yeah.
right? And yet, this past weekend we had City dropping points at home to a Chelsea team that is firmly mid-table, and then you had Bayern losing to Bochum, who were like, I don't know, just barely above the relegation line. So very strange things happening here. Very strange. Okay, we'll move on and put a bow on this episode with stoppage time. So the Ivan Toney's best bets last week. We'll do the recap. Another 3-2 week. So not a week that I'm writing home about, telling mom, putting the report card on the fridge, nothing like that. But we did come out with 3 wins. So, okay, we'll deal with that. But just means a little bit extra motivation to do better this week. So our pick, what is it? 5-a-side overtrain picks of the week here, starting on Wednesday. I'm going to go in EPL. I'm going to go Liverpool, Luton Town. Luton Town, against United, the last couple games, like they look more dangerous against the better opponents. So whether they can find one against Liverpool, I wouldn't be surprised if they do. And then I have no doubt the Liverpool will put up at least 2 or 3. They could put up 4 by themselves, depending on their injury status. Although I know that what you're thinking right now, Dalton, that Liverpool could be a little, not focused on this game, have one eye on the trophy
Oh, they're
this
focused.
weekend.
I have
All
no
right.
worries about the mentality monsters.
All right, mentality monsters. But when the mentality monsters are picking up, niggling injuries as well, then it's more
Chelsea's
than
injury list is the exact same length. Let's be
They have a
honest. Maybe
million
not.
players. They
Yeah,
have a
not as high
million players.
profile players. But they are listing 9 injuries as are Liverpool for this Sunday.
That's fair. That's fair. But I think it will sort of, Klopp will think of that. He's got a final to play on Sunday. So who's he going to throw out there on Wednesday against Luton Town? We'll see. So maybe Luton could maybe get 2 goals. And I don't doubt that Mo Salah himself will score, probably multiple goals. So I see goals on Wednesday from Liverpool and Luton Town. On Thursday, it treated me very nicely last week. So I'm going to stick with them. Carabao and Braga in Europa. Last week it was 4-2, and there were just goals galore. I expect probably more of the same this week. So that's Braga hosting Carabao. No, it'll be Carabao hosting Braga on Thursday. Friday, I got to go back to the Camboners. Listen, Cambor has been just they're money, like literal money. Okay, they're just an overtrain, over better's wet dream, week after week after week, and sometimes multiple times in a week. They played on Friday and they played on Monday. They went over both times. So maybe I'm going back to the well too much here, but I've given them a couple weeks off and I feel like it's time we're going to get another Camboner. So Emmen is hosting Cambor on Friday. Got to go over there. Saturday, Magdeburg, Schalke, Bundesliga 2. They played last time. I think it was 4-3 in October or September. When those 2 teams play, it's always just an absolute goal fest. And then Sunday, going a little off the radar here. I'm going with Bolivar and the strongest in Bolivia. Now, these 2 teams score a ton, and they score a ton against each other a lot. The one thing that gives me a little bit of pause, and I don't typically sort of pick these games, is that this is very early in the season. I think Bolivar's played 1 game. The strongest has played 0 games. And you never know coming into a season what sort of changes, how the things are going to go. So I'm going a little bit off on a limb here, but I feel like the strongest, a team called the strongest. First of all, I mean, that's an attractive name for an overbetter right there. But then with Bolivar, when they play each other, there's always goals. So we're going Bolivar, the strongest on Sunday. There's our pick 5. Let's go make some money, get rich, retire early. Now who wants to go first? Dalton, you look like you're ready to roll.
I'll roll here. So first of all, Brentford and Man City, if you listen to this podcast early enough, because it's Tuesday, Ivan Toney, anytime to score is plus 275, which, looking at the chances City gave up against Chelsea, Brentford, who are set up to get chances, specifically against big teams with the counterattack, City's defense gives up chances. Ivan Toney won't miss the chances Nicholas Jackson did. So plus 275, I like those odds. And then I'm going MLS this weekend. There is value if you could predict what teams are going to be way better than last year and betting them early before the books catch up. So one of those teams who I think is going to start well is the Chicago Fire.
Mm-hmm.
You can get them double chance right now. So draw or to win for plus money at the Philadelphia Union. I really like that. I know the Union are a good team, but I think the Chicago Fire are putting some things together that I really like. So getting them double chance at plus odds is, I think, really good. Or you can take them draw, no bet, get a little better odds for you. Or if you're feeling risky, just take them straight up.
Like it, going out on a limb. So I should have mentioned this before, by the way. So MLS is back this week, and we're going to have more of like a preview and like a real sort of getting up for sort of getting everybody's up to speed. But I kind of wanted, like, let's take a week. Let's see what teams do. We got the Leagues Cup coming back, or not Leagues Cup, sorry, Champions Cup, CONCACAF Champions Cup, what used to be Champions League. So that's going this week, and then we'll have MLS getting started this weekend, and then we'll have a real proper MLS preview, sort of give people our thoughts on the teams that will be doing well or better than we expect. And there's definitely going to be a lot of talk about Inter Miami being the odds-on favorite to win MLS Cup, given the number of asterisks and question marks that surround that club. And then you got like teams like Colorado Rapids and the moves they've made over the offseason, and yet they are tied for the longest odds to win MLS Cup. I don't understand that. I really don't. That'll be one of several talking points that we'll get into soon enough. So if you're looking for MLS preview, don't worry, it's coming. But for now, we'll get back to our regular scheduled programming, which, Mitch, it is your turn for Ivan Toney's best bet.
2 things on Dalton's best bet. One, including Ivan Toney in an Ivan Toney's best bet segment, I think should be boosted on our partner
I just
sportsbook.
realized that I did that.
Which is yet to be determined, but catch the boost on that. But he's right though. For my second thing, if you are a soccer fan who maybe doesn't know MLS all that well, knows the teams, knows the major characters in the league, throw a dart at a piece of paper and put $10 on whoever it hits to win the league, because there's so much value on the field right now. Don't bet on Inter Miami to win MLS Cup. Don't do that. No, that is, I'll add that to my other best bets, but just don't waste your money on that right now. Throw 10, 20, 50, $7,000 on a Nashville SC or something, because you can work for 40 years of your life, or you can get rich tomorrow. Your choice. Now on to my best bets. I got 3 of them for you. I'm also gonna talk about City Brentford, but not in the same way. I think City, coming off of a dismal performance on the weekend, cover -1.5 against Brentford. That's at -180 right now. It's an alternate line. I think they're -2 like on the line. But if you take them at -1.5, that feels feels doable against a shit Brentford team right now. And we can factor in Dalton's bet as well. We can have a 3-1 exact score line because I can't tell you how many City games finish 3-1 after they concede first. PSV, all of these games are tomorrow, by the way. So if this doesn't come out in time, I don't care. Fuck you. PSV Dortmund over 2.5. Those are both two teams that score. That one's self-explanatory. And then also tomorrow is Inter Milan, Atletico. I like over 1 goal in the first half. Inter have scored in the first half in their last 4 games, and Atletico, I actually don't know what they've done in the first half, but I like all of those together. You're sitting at a plus 300, nice and even.
Okay, I like it. There we go. It's a good shout on getting a boost for Ivan Toney bet.
Yeah.
In Ivan Toney's best bets. We'll have to work on that. For the time being, time for GOAWs, everybody's favorite segment. Okay. I actually, instead of my normal like long list, I've actually keyed in on just one. And I'm gonna let you guys go first. I'm just gonna cross my fingers and hope that you don't pick mine for this week. Because normally I'm like ready with like a couple like honorable mentions. Nope, I got one guy this time. So I'm gonna live dangerously. Mitch, who you got?
I feel like I'm gonna take it. My GOA this week. Josh Sargent, we gave him his flowers earlier, but he really has been playing out of his shoes recently. 6 goals in his last 6 games, like we mentioned, just balling out and climbing up that U.S. men's national team striker depth chart. But my GOA this week is Emirhan Delibas. He is Besiktas's player who had his contract terminated today because he has a profile on the dating application Bumble. And one thing that I think there's nothing from what we can see, there's no super red flags on the profile itself. And as the internet dating aficionado on this podcast, I can say that it's not a bad looking profile. He's very clear that he does play for Besiktas. The only thing is, though, it says on Bumble that he's 24 when it's very public knowledge that he's 21. I don't know what the play is there. Maybe a little an error with inputting your birthday. I don't know. But feels unneeded if you're a professional footballer. Also, if you're a professional footballer, I'm looking at a picture of the guy. Like that's a New York 8.5, 9 right there. You don't need to do that. Go out to a bar and just say, hey, you can watch me on the telly this weekend. You don't need to be on Bumble. I don't know if this is a good GOA or a bad GOA, but that's what GOAs are for.
It's a great shout. Now, you probably won't be surprised about this, but I actually did some research on this situation.
Yeah.
And according to some of the other people on social media, who would never lie, obviously, it sounds like maybe it wasn't the Bumble that got him his contract nixed, and it was just him being sort of not a professional who like wasn't really committed to the team. I don't know what the true story is. I like the Bumble story better, so let's stick with that one.
I'd like to think that there's more under the surface of the Bumble story, that he like matched with one of the athletic trainers or something, and they were boning in the back room. Who knows?
Owner's daughter.
Yeah,
like that.
maybe I'm just trying to fabricate some Hollywood nonsense here, but I think there's more than meets the eye here. We'll both do some digging this week.
Exactly. Come to Besiktas, but don't come at Besiktas. Oh, we got the one-liners here. Okay, that was a good one. I'm glad you brought that up. I was actually thinking about posting on it, and then I was like, oh, maybe it sounds like maybe it wasn't Bumble. What an idiot. I should have just posted it and gone with the Bumble story.
It's the internet. Nothing's true on
with the misinfo.
It's why ever worry about nuance and whatever. Anyway, Dalton, you're up. Go on.
I have someone who I don't think I'm taking your Sam, but I feel terrible for the guy. We were right around the edge of talking about him, but never mentioned him. Dio Opamecano.
You fucking did. You fucking took
Okay,
my guy.
I'll let you have it. I'll let you have it. No, it's all yours. It's all yours. I'm gonna go MLS. I'm going to go. That's what you get for only bringing one GOA to the table.
I gotta learn. I've learned my lesson now.
I'm gonna go MLS for my GOA because they are I'm happy MLS is going to be back this week. There's going to be games to watch. Game Wednesday with Inter Miami. There's going to be Championship Cup games. There's going to be Saturday night games. It's going to be all great. It's going to be fun to watch. But they couldn't have screwed this worse, though. The start of their season, like publicity wise, of the US Open Cup drama, the no roster rule changes, the Messi parade was an absolute disaster. Inter Miami in general, it's going to be incredibly interesting to see how that team turns out this year. Gosh, there was something else MLS did that made them look really stupid in the
Jerseys
last few
being
weeks.
$300.
Jerseys being a ton of money, season tickets are up in prices, all these very different things. I'm excited for MLS to be back, but I understand where people are coming from if you think, MLS really made a fool of itself these last few weeks leading up to the season. So MLS is my go. You can take it good that it's back this week. You can take it bad that they've looked like complete idiots.
Yes, it hasn't, from a PR standpoint, it does feel like there's been a lot of shooting themselves in the foot at a time when you really sort of want to start to build the momentum and get everybody's eyeballs and get people's attention. It's just, yeah, it hasn't been a great build up to the season. So that's a good shout. And thank you.
I'm sorry if I didn't say that first thing.
That's right. Well,
I didn't say it.
You can cut it. You can cut it. This is
Exactly.
the
That's the
joy of
beauty
being a
of it.
producer. No, don't do that. I have to learn my lesson and bring more than one go to the table. So as you teased, Upamecano is an absolute goa this week. So against Lazio, and this is in the middle of Bayern's 3-game losing streak, and Bayern Munich doesn't lose 3 games ever, let alone in February when they need to start winning to get back, not only to win Champions League, but to win the Bundesliga, which they've won. However, what year are we now? Like
11,
13, 11. Okay. So we'll start out with Upamecano against Lazio in Champions League. He gave away a penalty and got a red card, and that penalty was then, I think, converted by Immobile. That was the only goal of the game. Just a total needless challenge that he made. Just dumb. I guess they say rush of blood to the head, whatever, whatever euphemism you want to use. It was just a dumb play. And you think, okay, you know what? That was really bad. I'm going to sort of take some time, think about it, come back bigger, better, stronger, faster on Sunday when Bayern were playing Bochum. He did not. He got another red card. So it was 2 yellows as opposed to a straight red. But following up in a game that Bayern needed to win, obviously the Tuchel, the terrorist tiddlywink player, is like under pressure. And Upamecano, maybe he's just being a terrorist of himself, terrorizing a terrorist, which I guess maybe in a certain sense, I may be back all the way back around on Upamecano, and this is a good goa. But yeah, to get a red card in that game against Bochum when they were, I think it was 2-1 at the time. They had all the pressure. They were probably going to score. He got a red card. Bochum went up 3-1 soon after that, and they lost the game. Yes, 3-2, but still, losing a guy obviously hurts your chances of coming back. So Upamecano, to come off of just a really dumb play that cost Bayern the game against Lazio, then to have that performance, that's just, I mean, unless he's trying to take out Tuchel, in which case I'm back in. Love you. Love the play. Other than that, it's just terribly stupid, horrible week for our guy Deo Upamecano. So there we go. We'll leave it on a very happy, flowery note. Thank you, Dalton, Mitchell. You guys are the best. Always great to have you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hopefully I got a mosquito bite right on the bridge of my nose. I don't know if you can see that. By the way, Cabo, I was just in Cabo for a week, and my brain is kind of a little mixed at the moment.
He had to throw in that he was in
or the
Cabo
beers
for a week.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say there were 2 things.
I went to Houston.
Two days that were cloudy. First time in like, I feel like I've gone to a lot of places in Mexico and been there a lot of days. I can't remember a 1 day, let alone 2 days in a row that were cloudy. I don't know if Cabo has different weather patterns.
Of course.
But they also have mosquitoes in Cabo. Sons of bitches. Yeah, I guess I just had to, for some reason, I saw the mosquito on my nose and decided that I needed to talk about that. Anyway, Dalton Mitchell, you guys are the best. Thank you again. And everybody else, thank you for listening. Just like that, like Deo Open Makano, we'll be back bigger, better, stronger, faster next week. See you guys then. Cheers.